Every day Play Hearthstone Twitter account is revealing a few cards for the new mini set, the Maw and Disorder. And today they revealed it, put out a patch, or the notes. They put out notes with a couple of the cards, and then via Twitter have been revealing some. So if you want to check out the initial reveal and those first few cards, check out the other video here. If you just want to jump into the other cards that have been revealed, let's talk about cards from Thursday, September 22nd. And that is looking like a couple of legendaries and legendary neutrals specifically. So they are just coming right out with these. The first is Sylvanas. And of course, Sylvanas and the Jailer are the two big ones. So those are the two legendaries. But Sylvanas, legendary neutral, 6 mana, 5/5, battle cry, destroy an enemy minion, infuse of 7, take control of it instead. Wow. So I think they show the infused one here. There's the infused copy. Fantastic artwork, by the way. I love that. I'm really intrigued by this card here. I like the battle cry of destroying one. It's really interesting about the if you want to play it infused, but it feels really flexible, right? Because you could just play it to destroy a minion, or you can let it sit in your hand and infuse it and then take control of something. So it has that flexibility. I'm excited that this exists though, because I did really love the old Sylvanas that was in like the original Hearthstone. It was around for a while. They since have, kind of gotten rid of it out of standard, at least. I know it's been a card that also people have been asking for to come back, like via the core set. So the fact that this is here is really interesting. It's not a death rattle though, so you get to choose more when it happens, which feels pretty impactful. But I think if it were a death rattle, it probably just would be a little too slow and just not quite as impactful, I think, in the kind of current state of the game. So I'm really kind of excited for this one. I love Sylvanas, just her character and just all of the skins and portraits and all of that stuff. So really excited to see the Sylvanas one. I know there's only been a few cards, but I like this one. It's probably my favorite so far. Then we have the Jailer, which is kind of the other big, big card, big character of the mini set. So here we can see the Jailer, again, neutral legendary, a 10 mana, 10/10, battle cry, destroy your deck. For the rest of the game, your minions are immune. Wow. That's a huge effect. Huge effect. It's interesting because you do destroy your deck. Hopefully by the time that you're playing this, you still have gotten to play and still have cards in your hand. You've still gotten to play probably a third to half your deck at least, I would say. So I feel like the destroy your deck, depending on how late the game goes and when you play this, probably won't be as detrimental as how it feels initially reading the card. But having your minions immune is kind of huge, right? Because that means that your opponent can't target them. They essentially act like they have divine shields. There's AoE or some sort of just destroy random enemy minion like Sylvanas could kill off an immune thing, but can't be targeted with spells otherwise. It's really difficult to be able to actually remove those minions. So even small minions become a lot more of a pain in the butt to deal with. So I feel like this has a very powerful effect, and I'm really, really curious to see how people use these, especially with Renathal being in the meta and being a playable option as well. I imagine people will probably test this in XL decks first, but I don't know. I can definitely seeing it have a place though, and I'm really curious as well if Warrior gets a hold of this. I don't know. Maybe that's not the most, you know, the most impactful place, but really interesting card. I am really curious to see how this one actually goes. I want to judge it harsher, but I feel like the cards recently that I've done that with have actually ended up being a lot more played and have a lot bigger impacts on the decks and the meta than I give them credit for. So I don't want to say that it's not going to be impactful. Soul Seeker, 5 mana, 3/3, battle cry. Swap this with a random minion from your opponent's deck. Wow. This is also really interesting because the fact that it's a battle cry means it's going to be on the board. So you swap it with a minion from your opponent's deck. That essentially means that you now have their minion on your board. So if it does have an effect like Rush, Taunt, Divine Shield, Death Rattle, you will get those effects either immediately or they just become more valuable to you. You know, Rush, you get immediately. The things like Taunt or a Death Rattle, your opponent will have to deal with those. Don't suspect that there's going to be decks that don't run minions, so you're probably going to get some sort of value out of this. If it's a deck that's running a lot of small minions, maybe lower curve, kind of more aggressive style deck, this one might be a little too slow and really not very impactful. But if there's slower decks or decks running things like the Sylvanas or even Jailer, Denathrius, Theatar, like we were just talking about with that Jailer, this could be definitely huge. There's going to be some clips. There's going to be things, you know, people are going to high roll and it's going to be very exciting. And people are going to want to play it. I don't know how long it will stick around in decks though, but it's really interesting. The next one we have is an epic, and it is a 3 mana 2/5 that says secrets can't be revealed. Tight-lipped witness. Yeah, those are some tight lips for sure. But secrets can't be revealed. Very interesting. I don't feel like secrets are very popular or common in the meta right now, and when they are, it does feel like a lot of those are actually kind of discovered or created. Things like Tavish, or just discovering a secret from the 2 mana 2/2. But if secret decks come along in the future, then this creates something. This creates an opportunity for some decks. I can definitely see this being played, honestly, in the future. I don't know if it's going to be played now, but I feel like this might be a pretty cool card when we get, after the rotation, when we get back to a 4-set meta. But for standard, I'm not sure if this one will get included in decks. A really interesting effect though. Afterlife Attendant, a 3 mana 3/4. Your infuse cards also infuse while in your deck. Now, out of all of these cards, I love the Sylvanas. This card is so impactful. And you can run 2 copies of it because it's not a legendary. I think for especially a couple of decks, I'm immediately thinking of things like Hunter and Demon Hunter. But being able to infuse, especially very specific cards. Yes, Sire Denathrius is kind of the big one that comes to mind. But I mean, things like Zymox in Demon Hunter, being able to top deck that and have that infused already could be game changing. Like that could just be game winning, and that really affects the downside that I thought would be hindering some of the infused cards, which is that top deck factor of getting that later in the game. But if you're able to get these down, plus it's a minion, right? So you play this on the board, you get that effect. It's a minion itself, so it dies and adds to that infused pool. Yes, I said you can run 2 of them. You don't get the getting the effect twice really has no there's no reason to have the effect twice, but running 2 copies does mean that you are more likely to find this more consistently or a little bit easier than if you only ran 1. So you're a little bit more likely to get that effect, but this is just So interesting. This is huge, especially in decks that really want to capitalize on that. And you can play it for those big swing turns, right? So play this, play something that creates some tokens, trade that in. You really, it feels like there's so much going on with this card. You really get to decide when things happen. And again, that, you know, you don't want to play both of these out at the same time, is what I mean by you can't, you know, don't want to have them both out. But having this out, trading off some stuff, it dies, then you could get the other one. And it really just helps your infused cards. Maybe you don't even need the second one in some decks, but I absolutely love this effect. And I think this will make a couple of those decks, like I said, maybe even Hunter and Demon Hunter specifically, a bit more consistent. And I think for Demon Hunter specifically, it's that consistency that the deck really needs. But having those infuse effects, being able to infuse well in the deck, such a powerful effect. This one I'm really excited for. Thank you for checking out this video. Make sure that you are subscribed and able to check out all of the other videos. I'll be posting these every day, updating on what the new revealed cards are for the mini sets, and more decks and other videos, of course, on a consistent basis every week, multiple videos every week, even after the mini set launches. So thank you all for checking this out. And if you want even more tips, tricks, and strategies, then make sure you check out the playlist there.